Hello and welcome to Nerdarchy. For nerds, by nerds, I'm Nerdarchy Steve, and today I'm joined by Garner Andrews. How are you doing?
Doing fantastic, Dave. It's been great to have some of the initial conversations with you. It's definitely making me very nostalgic today.
Nice. Just two old guys hanging out on the interwebs talking about nerdy stuff. So if you'd be so kind to kind of introduce yourself and tell people a little bit about you.
Yep. Well, I will start when I was a teenager. Actually, it's after I started playing D&D, but my sister, Betsy, and she was in elementary school at the time, decided that she was going to draw a picture of people in her family, and she drew a picture of my brother Garner the nerd. And that went up on the refrigerator when I was a teenager, and it never came down. I think my mom may still have it on the refrigerator, proving that I am a very long time nerd. So it's always good to hang out with other nerds here. But my background is that I've been a D&D fanatic since I was a preteen. My first box that I played was the white box. And my best friend and I found it at a yard sale one day, and we got into it and dabbled. But then once his brother and his brother's friends got old enough, that was our pre-made group, and so we played everything all the way up to 3.5, and then we said hell no to 4. And then when 5 came out again, we were all very content again. Not it wasn't as good as AD&D, but it was definitely a huge improvement. But gaming has been part of my lifeblood my entire life. We have game nights with the family at home, which may be board games and card games, Settlers of Catan, Dominion, lots of other things too. I mentioned to you in the pre-show here that my daughter suckered me into playing Magic the Gathering now too. So Magic's become a big piece of what we do too. But for what I do most of the time, my Clark Kent alter ego is that I am a enterprise architect and an executive for a digital marketing company. And I love getting up and doing what I do every morning. And so, as long as they don't kick me out, I think I'll be doing some of that. But it helps fund all of my gaming hobbies that I love to participate in. And I like to mix all of these things together too. So you and I talked a little bit about philanthropy too, and how I love to do philanthropic stuff. And I got that started with the Lions Club. But what I'm doing as a person is I am blending philanthropy and gaming and my knowledge of computers and other things like that, so that it all ends up coming together. The one thing that I haven't mentioned is my main hobby is woodworking outside of gaming, is woodworking. And of course, I'm bringing that in too, building gaming tables and, dice boxes and, all sorts of things. I bought an expensive toy last year, a nice new CNC machine that's actually going to help me with some of the things that we'll talk a little bit about today. So,
Yeah, I was wondering about the gaming table once you brought up the woodworking. So
oh yeah.
you came to
Oh
us
yeah.
by way of Fantasy Grounds Academy
Yep.
for a very specific purpose, which I want to talk about a little bit before we go any further. There, as always, folks, there's links in the description to see the things that we're going to be talking about. So you guys are having a David Middleton. Memorial Con for his
Yep.
passing, and he was the digital dungeon master online. I didn't know him very well, but we had interacted a few times, and I just remember it was kind of shocking to see that he passed because he's still a relatively young guy.
Yep. Yeah, so a fantastic guy. And unfortunately, when I say he had a big heart, he also physically had a big heart. But he passed away last year. He was the guy that represented Smiteworks and Fantasy Grounds in social media, right? So he was the one that was always streaming. He started the Fantasy Ground. Well, he may not have started it; may have been Doug, but he owned the Fantasy Grounds Fridays, which he did such a good job with all of those. truly one of the nicest guys that you will ever, have encountered online. Like there was not a bad bone in his body. And when people were acting stupid and stuff like that, instead of acting like me and, calling them out and making sure that people understand that half of the people are stupider than the other half of people that exist out there. Not that I say that on a regular basis. He was the guy that could always smile at that stupidity or whatever it is, and keep the conversation going. He did such a good job. One of the things that I always respected about him too was everybody wanted to know, when's something coming out, what's the next piece of functionality, how can we get this, or what are we going to do. And he always was so good at both feeding you the information at a good pace so that you were content, but also making you feel good about the fact that you didn't necessarily know some of those things. All of that said, he was one of the most knowledgeable people about how to use the Fantasy Grounds platform as well. And so you could always rely on him to, chime in at the Fantasy Grounds Academy or on the Smiteworks Discord, making sure that everybody knew, exactly how to do what they needed to do. So a fantastic man, and is definitely going to be sorely missed. So what they've done though is we have set up a David Middleton Memorial Convention. We're organizing it on Warhorn, and the links are definitely down below too. But looking forward to celebrating his life. And to get together on May the 13th through the 15th and run a bunch of games, and anything that we make or earn is going to go to the American Heart Association in his memory. So
now there's also the Fantasy Grounds Academy GM symposium going on. Now that's longer though, right? That's the whole month.
Right.
And are those things kind of married together? Was it planned that way?
So they were not married together originally, but it fits so well, right? I mean, Dave was, one of those DMs who DM when he ran Dungeons and Dragons GM, when he's running Paizo products or what have you. But he was one of the good guys, again, skilled guys in actually running those games. If you and you still can go and get some of the videos of the games that he was running, and he was very good at that. What we do at the Academy is that we typically are teaching people how to use Fantasy Grounds. In the case of our dedicated month, and I'll talk a little bit more about some of the other months if you don't mind, but we have said, okay, we need to expand our offerings to people so that we improve the community. And one of the things that we feel is very important is giving people good GM and DM skills, so that they know and they understand how to do things. Some of it is going to be demonstrated on the technical platform, but what we are dedicating the month of May to is actually all of those skills that surround running the games. And so we have a lot of people that have 20, 30, or even more years of experience at DMing that we want to share that with everybody else. And so we will have all of those events going on. You can go to our Discord, and in our Discord, we have those events posted, up at the top, and you can sign up for those events. We don't have all of them posted yet. By May 1st, we'll have all of the events posted, and everybody can get into the ones that they are most interested in.
So how long have you been part of the Fantasy Grounds Academy? And also, I've always affectionately referred to them as being aggressively helpful.
Well, and I think that we are aggressively helpful, but there's Smiteworks does what they can do, but when it comes to educating the broader public on their platform, we feel that it takes a little bit more time to come up to speed on the platform, and we wanted to make sure that is as little of a barrier to people as is possible. And so we spend as much time as we can offering courses on how do you do all these things inside the platform to make it, again, as easy as possible for people to pick it up and run with it. And the reason why, well, let me answer your question real quickly. I've been involved for about 2.5 years. So, and why I got involved was my best friend and I he was overseas, and we were looking for some way that he and I could, start getting together on a regular basis. We were not thinking, hey, let's rekindle our old, D&D sessions. But I started looking around and found, all the VTTs, Roll20, and there were actually 3 or 4 small things that really didn't work, but Roll20 and Fantasy Grounds were the 2 at that time. Foundry obviously is one of those that's out there and available now. But I became a real big believer. I bought all licenses to everything and tried everything out. And I said, Fantasy Grounds is, as a tool, much more comprehensive, shortens the time for prep, helps you with the automation during the game itself. And so I became a Kool-Aid drinker and saying that I think that Fantasy Grounds is the best of the VTTs out there. Now, that's not to diminish what is offered by any of the others. I love what Foundry has done. I like to tell all the Roll20 guys what they're missing on a regular basis, but by far and away, it's the standard for the industry. And so I don't belittle that, especially from a business perspective. They need that. But what we've been doing, though, is making sure that for all this time that I've been associated with it, helping figure out what additional classes we need to offer, filling those gaps in the community, so that all of the questions that need to be answered get answered. My personal best contribution was coming up with and designing all the mapping courses, because Fantasy Grounds has been doing a great job of adding, all sorts of things like dynamic lighting and the map tools. Josh Watma has a Saturday show that he does every Saturday that's great about showing people how to use the built-in mapping stuff. But we teach people how to actually, do that and use that. And that was one of the things I added, last year when they were releasing that. So,
are you playing other non-D&D games?
I do like other non-D&D games. Right now, I'm playing absolutely this many, just because, honestly, I haven't had time. I have been banging on the door, though, to get a Call of Cthulhu campaign started up. I want to run, and now that they've just come out with the 70 version on Fantasy Grounds, I'll get it and eventually run it. But the Nyril Thotep campaign that they've got, that's an incredible campaign, and I want to do that. But I own Pathfinder 2, I own Starfinder, and the entire first set of adventures and stuff like that. I don't have time for all of it, and D&D is my passion. So I will I will pick D&D before I pick most of the others. So
yeah, I mean, before we got started, we were talking about D&D Direct a little bit and all the big drops that they just had. How do you feel about when Wizards puts out their own VTT? I suspect it's coming.
I'm sure that it will be. It's going to be an extension of D&D Beyond. They'll take what they do and they'll try to come out with it. Let's just hope that they do it better than they do most of their other technical things.
We were talking about that in-house. If they do it in-house, it'll be garbage. If they seek out experts and have them, I feel like if they have the people at D&D Beyond do it, it'll probably come out okay. I would definitely felt way more confident had Adam Bradford been still at the helm.
Totally with you.
Yeah, but I mean the other people there have been pretty good as well. But I don't know them as well, so I don't have as much. So I don't have the same level of confidence.
Yeah, and I don't know that it was specifically Adam, but Adam was obviously the front man for talking about those ideas that they had around.
No, he was the one that pitched the idea and said, "Hey, you need to do this to curse," and he was kind of like the guiding hand. So like, and I so like he was very like that's why I feel like whatever projects he gets involved with will do really well.
Yeah.
But I'm just kind of curious what the whole landscape is going to look like. I mean, fortunately, like for Roll20 and Fantasy Grounds and these other systems, there are definitely other RPGs that will not be showing up on whatever VTT Wizards of the Coast decides to do.
Yeah. Yeah, totally agreed. And they've got they can control what happens really from a purse string standpoint. I'll give you an example too. They are really partnering a lot with Ballman Games, around those virtual D&D weekends. And Ballman gets exclusive content and other things like that. But there have been some hiccups as far as like how they're rolling some of that out, or what the experience is for everybody. And we'll talk a little bit more about what my reaction is to that. But
Yeah.
again, I think it's you got people, process, and technology that are all needed. You didn't have to have technology before, COVID and all the VTTs, but now it really is a staple for, what we do in the gaming community. And so if they don't properly get their arms around how to do that, and I style myself as an expert, both from a gaming perspective, but also, a people, process, and technology expert. I came up, professionally in this industry. I've been a consultant. I've worked, for some of the best companies like Accenture, and I currently work for one called Epsilon, which is a Publicis company. Like, I know the field, and I know the process and what goes into it. And there are just a lot of gaps, I think, from people who are trying to do too much on their own right now.
So I haven't talked to anybody from the FGA in a while. When we had done the live chats before, we had quite a few people on at various points. But that was pre-COVID. During COVID, what did the FGA look like at that point? I imagine it must have been a boom.
It was. So, and really that's when I had first gotten really involved. So pre-COVID, it was basically like November pre-COVID that I really got started with what was going on. No, I take it back. It was a year before that. So I was a year before, a year and a half before COVID started that I got involved. So I said 2 years, and it's been 3 years now. But anyway, the seeing COVID hit was crazy. And we went from, a constant number of people that were coming in to like doubling, tripling, and even quadrupling what we saw coming in on a monthly basis. And I think it's been great for the industry. I think that, I think we all know that the numbers are backing off from the people that are coming in, but the people who are still using these types of tools and platforms has stayed there, right? So It is now definitely a staple of the industry, and how it's working, and it's good for people like Roll20, Fantasy, or Smiteworks, and the Foundry guys, because, well, Foundry less so because of their model, but for Roll20, and even for Wizards, now that they own D&D Beyond, definitely a very good thing for them financially, because everybody's using the online tools that are helping you manage your games, manage your characters, everything else.
Yeah, one of the silver linings to the end times, right, was the fact that a lot of people that had inertia to coming online and playing online and said they would never do it had no other way to play. So once you break that inertia, it makes it so much easier. And then you realize it's like, okay, like maybe this isn't the same experience that I would get sitting around the table with my friends, but it's not. I wouldn't say it's a lesser experience for me anyway, because there's some takeaways from playing online that I can't get at a table. One of which being, generally the games are shorter, they're more focused. We play the thing. Even if we plan a little bit of hangout time before or after, and like I don't have to commute anywhere, so I don't have to put pants on if I don't want to. Like there's all these great things. Yeah, don't stand up. And all these great things. In addition to that, too, like I can play with people on different continents and different countries. Which would not be feasible for people that have weird work schedules. They can generally find someone to play in a game that works for them if they're willing to come online. And and so it's more about the gaming event, whereas like when I play in person, it's just more about like we game, but it's generally more about hanging out with my friends than it is playing the game, and both are
Yeah.
valid.
I think you're absolutely right. Both are valid. And like one of the campaigns that I run, and a couple of the ones that I'm actually just about to start as well, those are people that I met at conventions, and they would like to continue those adventures that we were running there as well. And you're never like when you go in. We've all been to whether it was Gary Con or Gen Con or for me Dragon Con. I live in the Atlanta area. But you go to these places and those are one shots and you plan on them being one shots. We are developing better communities now with all the people that we meet at these conventions because of the online tools and the online capabilities that we've got.
So you had mentioned before we got started, you got a bunch of games going on.
I do. Yep. So so one of them came to an end recently, and we'll tie it into what you just said about playing around the world and about the T-shirt and everything else too. But my best friend, who I started as a young kid playing and running games for, he and I were looking for that platform to bring us back together. We found it. Our kids got involved. We were playing every Saturday night, and just it was fantastic. Our kids didn't know the names of each other before we started doing it, and now when we think about vacations, we think about taking vacations together and other things like that. I was actually running that campaign through Tyranny of Dragons. We finished the first one. What they split it up into. Split Rise of Tiamat. So we finished. No, Rise of Tiamat's the second one. The I'm forgetting the first one. Anyway, I ran through the first one. We've started Rise of Tiamat, and unfortunately, last November, it was actually 2 days after Dave Middleton passed away. My best friend passed away as well. Almost, the same type of thing, enlarged heart and had a heart attack. And so that kind of put the brakes on that campaign. We're about to restart that campaign with a number of the people who were in that as well. That's going to be homebrew. But obviously I went from doing a lot of, not pre-generated, but the off the shelf Wizards of the Coast stuff to now doing some of the stuff that's I love the most, which is all of those hours that my wife and I go to the bar. We have our Cheers is the local Mexican restaurant, but I take my notebook with me and I'm sitting there just writing, the adventure highlights out in the notebook the entire time. But I love that, and that's coming to fruition with my main campaign that I'm going to be running. I have one that I run every Sunday, or not every Sunday, every other Sunday, with guys that I met at last year's Gary Con, so a year and a month ago, Gary Con. And then I also have a Wednesday game every other Wednesday that I run with a number of people who are local to me here. I say they're local to me. Their daughters, so my two friends are local that they play. Their two daughters play in the campaign as well. One of them is down in the city, Atlanta local, but the other one is now up in Massachusetts. So we're spread out all over, but it's good friends that we enjoy hanging out with. And then two of the others that I'm getting started right now are other people that I've met online that have wanted to, well, not just online. It's also people that I met at GaryCon this year that want to continue some stuff that we started. So it's actually both of those are going to be focused on the Temple of Elemental Evil, which Goodman Games released. I love the Temple of Elemental Evil, and this is a great adaptation. I have the original, still sitting on my shelf, but I love this adaptation to 5e. Makes it easy to run it in Fantasy Grounds with everybody, and so I'm able to continue those as well too. So anyway, yeah, 5 games right now that I'm running across. Probably about 10 days a month total, which is a lot for my wife. But just about right for me that I don't get confused and I have time to prep and things like that. So
that is a decent amount of gaming for sure. Some might even say a lot of gaming. Honestly, like I watch some of these streamers do their thing, and they're gaming like every day or like
they better be
maybe
making a living at it. Yeah.
multiple times a day. I'm like, I don't even. It makes me question whether or not I actually like gaming, because I'm like, I could not do that.
Well, you like gaming. I think they're either, crazy about gaming, or they're making money at it. So one or the other.
Yeah, that's
Um,
true. Although I will say that having interacted with and hung out with and friends with a lot of streamers, you really need to keep at least one game for yourself where it's like a true home game, whether it's online or in person, but it's not streamed, it's not content. And
yep.
that's hard, right, when you're a content creator, because you feel guilty if you're doing something and not turning it into content.
Yeah, agreed.
So
So anyway,
so how often do you run classes over at the FGA?
there are classes offered every week, but uh, generally what happens is somebody comes in and says, I need to do this. And so when a request comes in, we make sure that that request gets taken care of. So we
Yeah.
may have 5 to 10 events or classes that are posted all, on a regular basis. So there's always something you can sign up for. But if somebody comes in and says, hey, I need a character creation class, or I need a GM 101 class, or, I need a mapping class, we will set that up, and usually get set up within the week for them to actually do it.
I remember my first experience with one of my first experiences with the Fantasy Grounds Academy was I was going to be running a streamed game for Saver Dice, and Fantasy Grounds is one of our sponsors. So I was like, I had to figure something out. So I went over to the website, to the Discord, maybe the Discord, to try
Yeah,
and
probably
figure
Discord.
something out. And I was just like hoping someone would put me in a direction for a tutorial or something. And next thing I know, I'm like in a Discord video chat with someone, and like making sure that I learn the thing, because like I'm kind of like unobtrusive and a bit on the
Mhm.
reserve side. So I just like wanted something to watch and figure it out on my own. That's
Yep.
why I call you folks aggressively
Forcefully helpful.
helpful.
Yeah, aggressively
Yeah.
helpful. That's right.
I'm like, I don't know
Yep.
what's going on. I'm now in a video chat. I've been hijacked, and now I'm learning stuff.
Yep. Well, and I would tell you that the community itself is a very healthy community at the academy. People will bend over backwards, to help out. You have experts on all different rule sets, and then also on the tool itself, the platform itself. And so anything that people want or need help with, the academy is the right place to actually go for that.
What was your entry point into the academy?
Well, again, I was looking for for something to let me spend time with Justin, and so when I did choose Fantasy Grounds, and it took me about 2 or 3 months of looking at and comparing Roll20 and Fantasy Grounds, for me to say, hey, it's got to be Fantasy Grounds. My first class that I took was actually a map making class, and of course they didn't have a built-in tool for that at the time. And so the guy that taught it, he's actually no longer teaching classes with us, but he's still involved in the community. His nickname's Vex, but he was teaching. Hey, here's how you use 2 or 3 other tools like Photoshop, or some of the other graphical tools to actually create maps, and then showing you how you use those to import them into Fantasy Grounds. And things have got a lot better even with those third-party tools that have been out there. And I, have taught myself now a lot of people about how to use them. But for tools like Incarnate and Arkenforge and Campaign Cartographer, and I don't want to miss anybody. They're all good tools out there. I mean, there are a lot of great ones, and they're all doing things like giving you integration so that it automatically creates the walls uh, inside Foundry or Fantasy Grounds, and other things like that too. So it is very good. But that class itself was my first one, and definitely got me more passionate about the graphics and the artwork side of it. That is a big difference with playing online with, playing at your table, because playing at the table, we get I've got all of the tiles, the D&D tiles that you can have. I have bought small groups of miniatures to use. I've built some of my own houses and other things like that when I'm using miniatures. But the look of what you're going through is way better in the digital tools than it is at home. And so and we'll talk a little bit more about my game table in a little bit too, but I have decided that the one that I'm making is not the right table for me in the long run, because I didn't design this one with a 60-inch screen embedded in the table as well. So I've got to go build myself another one.
Back to the drawing board.
That's right.
What do you think it is about Fantasy Ground that it instills such a loyal fan base? Like, I mean, I've talked to a lot of people that use a lot of different VTTs, and even though they all have their favorites, right? But I have yet to meet a fan base that seems as rabid and as loyal, as the folks at the FGA. There is nothing comparable. It's in Roll20, Astral,
You're right.
Owlbear, Shard. You guys are like a little mafia.
Well, I think, and having been in software development for most of my career, I also think that that's a big piece of it. So the platform itself is one that is, when I say that's a big piece of it, they've done a good job of developing something that addresses certain users' needs. The challenge right now with the Fantasy Grounds platform is that the learning curve is steeper than it is on other platforms. But once you get there, the experience is a way better experience than the other platforms. Foundry is the only one that comes close right now. And the challenge that I see with Foundry is actually that they don't control their community development the same way, and so you have a lot of things that end up conflicting with each other. They could potentially solve for that, but the product that they put out there is a very good product. It's just that there are lots of there's a lot more chaos with their platform than there is with the Fantasy Grounds platform. And Fantasy Grounds, the trade-off is that because they control that and they do a much better job of controlling it, things actually get to production slower than they do with the Foundry platform too. But again, it's a platform that, for the people that do get over the learning curve, it's a way more usable experience than it is with the other platforms.
So
less things to complain about.
Us personally, we are more in person, and then when we game online, it is just pretty much always theater of the mind. We are very low tech with this stuff, so we're not particularly vested in any of them per se. I mean, we always have different VTT companies chasing us and wanting to do sponsorship and stuff, and I'm just like, we just don't use it. I think it's great and it's awesome. These communities exist and these tools exist for people, but for us to pimp something like that, it's not a thing that we really use. Sure. But when I'm fascinated when I see someone that uses these tools really well, it always reminds me of a conductor to an orchestra when someone's GMing a game and using a VTT, and they got all the sounds and music and effects going at the same time. It kind of boggles my mind a little bit.
I love it. I use Sirenscape coupled with Fantasy Grounds. The plugins are there, and it is, again, it's an immersive experience for my players, and they love. I cast a fireball and I get a fireball spell, or I cast a guidance, which that happens all the freaking time, right? And I get the spellcasting sounds that go with it. So.
Yeah, all that's super cool. Before you know it, we're gonna all have Oculus Rift headsets on and be playing well, that way. And then after that, they're just gonna put the chip in our brain.
Yep. Well, and it wasn't quite as successful as I wanted it to be. But when I ran my games at GaryCon this year, I took my tablet and my laptop, and I used the tablet to show them the maps and what they could see and other things like that. And it was definitely a enhanced experience, kind of like what I was talking about with having the big screen embedded in the actual physical gaming table that I'm going to build. But having that map there that they all could see, definitely a better experience too. I tried to run Sirenscape as well, but when you're in the basement at the Grand Geneva,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
don't get very good internet, and you can't you can't always get that running the way that you expected to do.
Yeah.
So
Have you seen Game Board?
I have not.
The last Game Board. So it's like it's only like 16 by 16 inches,
Mhm,
but it's like interactive touch screen
mhm.
that you can connect to to the different VTTs. Oh, it does a bunch of other stuff as well. But like there's like special bases that go on the minis so
Mhm.
that the minis can interact with the virtual
Yeah,
environment.
it's the same thing as playing what's my son's Xbox game that he's got those minis that you put on the base and other things like that. But yeah, it's the
Oh,
same technology.
yeah,
Uh,
like Skylanders and stuff like
yes,
that.
Skylanders. Yep. So he had two. He had Skylanders, and then he had another one too. But
Well, no, this
Skylanders
is
on the one.
actually it goes on the screen and you would use the mini and
Right,
move
but
it just like a
I'm saying it's
table.
just the same technology.
Oh,
Meaning
okay, yeah.
you've got a chip in the bottom of the mini, and that chip is detected by the screen itself, and it's able to know what is there, and obviously with the screen, with the touch screen and the mini, you'd be able to know where it actually is. So, yep.
Yeah, so it's just interesting to see where where all this is going. Even the D&D Direct thing that they did, they used like a virtual environment. I don't know, it really weirded me out. I wasn't into it, but I know a lot of people really dug it. And it was like you have a little avatar, you're moving around and into different virtual rooms
Yeah.
where you can then interact with something via like a Zoom chat.
Mhm.
And then also
Yeah.
like they had tables with these viewing orbs on them, and you'd go up to it and click on it, and
Mhm.
then it would take you to the presentation.
Yeah. Well, and I think for it, I don't know exactly who that appeals to, right? Because I consider myself very up on all of the technology that goes
Yeah.
in, and I'm into uh, it because I'm into all of those types of things because my son, does a lot of things that may be similar, but I, I don't know. I don't get it, and I don't think that that is the
Uh,
type of thing that my son, who would also be into some things like that, would necessarily be into either. But I'm sure it appeals to somebody.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Somebody,
Well, I saw people that said that they really dug it, but like
Mhm.
for me, also, like I didn't know that that was how it was going to work.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like
Ah,
jarring, right? Like
yeah.
you're running into people and you're in a video chat with them all of a sudden. I'm like, I just thought I was going to come watch a presentation or whatever.
Yeah.
I didn't come prepared to interact with humans.
That's right. Yeah.
So
So,
yeah, like many gamers, I'm a bit of an introvert. So
mhm. Well, I am a homebody, but I am not an introvert. I definitely am out there and talking. I actually speak about VTTs and how they have impacted the gaming industry as well. And I'm not afraid to reach out and start talking about different things. We just had somebody ask about what chaotic good gaming does. So if you're good with it, why don't
yeah,
I weigh
yeah,
in a little
just
bit
jump in there.
about chaotic good gaming? So another part of my and Dave's pre-game conversation was why am I doing what I'm doing with chaotic good gaming? And it's really got two purposes. It's to fill a gap that I see in the community, and then it's also to marry all of the things that I love, right? So when I talk about the things that I love technology, and I love gaming, and I love woodworking, and I love philanthropy. I got my start in philanthropy in the Lions Club, which a lot of people like Dave look at you and say, you're too young to be in the Lions Club. I was in it when I tell people I was a lion before I was a lion. I was, 10, 12 years old working in the concession stand, but it's all about service. And my dad's friends in the Lions Club taught me how important it is to serve and give back to others, basically to be selfless. And we all are happier people. So I would start there and say that that if we are selfless individuals, that we are all going to do a much better job of getting along and making the world a much better place. Now, that said, over the past few years, I've been really disappointed with the virtual gaming experience. And so what I have decided to do is to offer a paid for DMing service that is going to do a much better job of taking care of the DMs and GMs that are going to run the games than the other services do. And then it's also going to make sure that the experience for players is much better. I am not going to take a single dime out of this, though. My passion right now is mental health issues. I've had a lot of experience, both friends, family, others, where I think that mental health, especially given what we've gone through with COVID, is a great thing for people to potentially focus on. And so Chaotic Good Gaming is going to give 100% of all of our profits to mental health causes. But getting back to the gap in the community and the gap in the industry, I have been sorely disappointed with whether it was the experience with Baldwin Games and the virtual D&D weekends, and by the way, I'm not trying to be overly critical. They are a great organization that offer a great service. It's just not at that level of quality where I think most people are really desirous of. You've got kind of an open a free-for-all on Warhorn for finding and scheduling games and other things like that. You've got Start Playing, which does their thing as well. And what I have done is I've taken my knowledge and experience with Fantasy Grounds, my knowledge and experience with technology, and basically come up with a business plan for how we're going to do this. And for DMs, what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that they are compensated. They're going to be compensated as well as they're compensated anywhere else, but then they're going to get swag. And swag is really where it's at. You're going to get things that I can make with my woodworking stuff. So you DM so many games, you're going to get DM screens, and you're going to get dice boxes, and you're going to get other things like that. Yeah.
How many games do you got to run to get a table?
Okay, so the table, that's a very important question, right? So I'm building this table that is designed after, if you guys have paid attention to the big heavy duty Geek Chic table that they had out for years, and all of us gamers have looked out there, right? So go look at the Geek Chic table. I designed my table based on that. I'm now totally dissatisfied with it, but it's still a fantastic table. It is mahogany, it is curly maple, it's got drawers, it's got dice towers, it's got dice caddies built into it. It's got the sunken area in the middle that you can cover up, and so you can store your miniature games or store your board games or your puzzles or whatever have you. This is going to literally be one of those $8,000 to $10,000 tables. Okay. And my plan right now is to give it away. So it is going to be based on, and my thought yesterday was that every time somebody either GMs or plays in a 4-hour session, that you get entered into the drawing. And then at the end of the year, it will go to one of those people. Now, that said, we are going to build an offer table. So my 19-year-old is getting into woodworking with me, and we're going to have Chaotic Good Gaming branded stuff that is going to be every bit as good as your Wormwood or your other Geek Chic type Geeks and Sons, other type furniture that we got out there. But we have good stuff out there. How many do you have to do to get a table? that's going to be a hell of a lot. But I gotta have a number, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just haven't figured out exactly what that number is. Right now, we're just thinking about, okay, you get coasters to begin with. You get dice boxes, small dice boxes that have, just for a set of dice, like a 11 set of dice. Then you've got a big dice box that's going to have room for pencils in the middle, dice storage on either side, and then the ability to roll dice in it. Right, so a larger container that's got that a GM screen, other things like that too. So there are lots of things that we've designed already, and I've made prototypes. I'll actually, I haven't done this yet, but I'll put pictures of those up on the Chaotic Good Gaming website so that people can see the prototypes that I've built already of each of those.
It makes me think of I used to have this telemarketing job, and it was like doing sales for building and maintenance supplies over the phone. It was very scummy too. It was like the scummiest. Like you would get a hold of someone and you had all these like cheesy like lines and scripts you would use. And then like you would be like, if they bought something from you, you would like send them. It started like a clock radio. Like this is how long ago it was like the free thing. And then like if they kept buying from you, and placed bigger orders progressively. They got bigger and bigger things, and like you're trying to get their home address to send them stuff. And it makes me feel like it feels like that a little bit, only not scummy.
Yeah, no, I get it. Not scummy is definitely it, but there is definitely going to be a progressive earning, for all of those types of things. By the way, I just saw my daughter popped up with a Discord.
Yeah, you're dissing her. I saw that.
Well, what she said in Discord was, "Dad's going to kill us when he hears what we're all saying about him in Discord." So I have no idea what it really is, but they're going off right now.
Well, Lindsay's also in the chat here, so
very good. So let's talk about the players real quickly too, and what their experience should be and why it should be better. So the players, basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make absolutely sure that all the games that we do are hosted on one of the top VTTs, right? And so right now I'm going to limit that to Foundry, Roll20, and Fantasy Grounds. Those are all three, quality platforms that you can have, really good experiences with. But making sure that we have those, and then that the DMs have the opportunity to get things like the tokens that go along with their games to enhance their games, other things like that. That will be something that we'll be able to offer the DMs, as additional bonuses as we progress through those experiences. But what's great about that for the players is that they're going to get those immersive experiences where hopefully the DMs have sound, and they've got the quality. They've got the quality maps and other things like that will actually give those players a great experience. And if you go to the Chaotic Good Gaming website, and that's chaoticgoodgaming.com, but you can see it down below. I do have a number of different pages that have the bulleted items about what the benefits are for each of the different groups. But having the professional experience and the respectful gaming environment is actually very key to what we're going to offer. One other thing that I failed to mention for the DMs, though, is that one of my biggest disappointments so far has been the systems that people are using to have you sign up and manage the games and other events, making sure that when you see those events and those games that they're in your time zone, or making sure that that a GM or a DM can look at everything about what they've got coming up, and that they can properly contact all the people that they've got involved. Sure, you've got people like Tabletop Events who do a lot of event type things on a regular basis, but it doesn't cater to what a GM or a DM wants. It caters to what a event manager will want, or what a convention type manager wants. And what I want to provide for those GMs and DMs, and I'm able to do so because of my software background, is make sure that those tools and platforms that we're going to use are going to be all of that. And just from a timing perspective, we're probably going to release sometime late summer, so July, August, with the the formal rollout of Chaotic Good Gaming. But we'll be doing some beta testing between now and then, and so there will be a few GMs and DMs who are able to offer those offer their games using our platform and our services between now and then. But stay tuned on the website for news about that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. How can someone get involved with the beta? But yeah, so go
So
to the website. The link is in the
yes,
description. Is there like an email list or something people sign up to?
yep,
Okay.
correct. So on the main page for the site, it actually has a small form for GMs to actually fill out, and they can do so pretty easily. Just last name or name, email address, the VTT that you use, and then the rule sets that you run games for. And then I've already got a handful of people who have already filled it out, and am working with those people who already filled it out will be the first ones that are in the beta test, and then everybody else will be part of that official rollout at the end of the summer.
So, are any of your games in person, or are they all online?
So I right now all of my games are actually online. I am excited for games being in person again. Like I see the guys that I play with regularly.
Yeah, yeah.
My best friend's brother, he and I meet for lunch. Brother and sister, we meet for lunch every Thursday, right? My the couple that is part of my Wednesday game, the couple and their daughter, we go to church with them, and so we see them, every week. Or they actually belong to the Lions Club too, so we see them when we go to Lions Club as well. But it's a good opportunity for us to get back in person. I miss it with a passion, so it will be coming very soon.
Yeah, I know once we matched up all of our vaccinations, we started going back to in person for our games, and
Mhm.
and it's been nice to like actually see people in person again,
Yeah.
and get to connect. It's just it's a different experience.
Yeah. It definitely is. And like you said at the beginning, it's for different purposes, right? I mean, that is hanging out with some of your best friends and, really loving and enjoying that on a regular basis. My daughter actually ditched my Saturday night game, which was virtual, for an in-person game with all of her friends.
Yeah, yeah.
So she chose in person, as a very important thing for her as well. So, and I'm glad for her. So,
Yeah, I feel like most people will choose in person over online. I mean, maybe it might be
mhm.
different with the younger generations now, because so much of their life is
I,
online now.
Yeah, I think it absolutely will be, right. So I think that you will have a group that will never choose in person.
Yeah,
I think that there are also actually a lot of people who, are those real introverts, and you call yourself an introvert, but I'm talking
yeah.
about the real introverts who don't want to get out from behind their computer anymore. They've found that they can do their job from home, they can do everything from home, and I think that there are a lot of those who are part of our community, and that is just fine. VTTs allow for all of that kind of thing. But like you said, it's a different experience. I think it's a healthy experience too. I mean, I think that role playing in general is a very healthy thing, but I also think that it is. We communicate better when we're in person and face to face, and we also do other things in that communication that are very healthy too. So I certainly encourage people when you have the opportunity to get together.
It's one of the few activities I think that we have as a society now where it kind of forces people to actually in that proximity of each other, where everything else seems to be pushing us apart, even though we're more connected than ever. I
Mm,
do find that there is one weird side effect to all the online gaming, and I can tell because of all the questions we've gotten over the years in our comment sections
mhm.
about the problems that people have and the solutions they're looking for. Right?
Yep.
They're always very odd, and they're always out of game problems they want to solve in game,
Hmm.
and obviously that would happen with in person as well. But I just feel like it's becoming more frequent with the more people game online, because they're not connecting with their
Well,
groups, with
I,
the
I love that.
individuals.
that is a great example, right? And let's talk just briefly about comfort levels of different things in the games, right? Because how people with good communication skills will work through that in person is that you can have conversations around setting expectations about what's going to be in a game, how your DMing style works, what you expect of the players, and how they're supposed to play with each other. All of those things can be done and said. And now you've got people who are solving those problems online. You have plugins for Fantasy Grounds that basically let people message the DM that say, I'm uncomfortable with the topic or with, the way that something's going. But and I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. No, I think that's a good thing to have. Again, the same way that I talked about somebody being an introvert and being a good member of the community, but being very different from somebody that's going to attend in person. You've got a lot of people that don't want to talk about things that are uncomfortable.
Mhm.
Hopefully you get a good enough group of friends that you can raise your hand and say, with confidence, hey guys, this is getting a little sideways. I've got a situation right now at my local gaming store where the language has been, too much for me to bring family members, to actually go game like that. I have no problem speaking up and saying I have an issue, but a lot of people may
Yeah.
have an issue with that. And so you've got technological solutions to those things that you know I want to say that healthy communication skills help with, but not everybody's great at communication. And so it's okay that we then develop technological solutions that assist with that. Make
So
sense?
yeah, but I feel like that's kind of like circumnavigating the fact that when you game online and you're gaming with strangers online because you met in a community or you
Mhm.
signed up for a game, you don't necessarily connect with the other players on a
True.
personal level. So like I've said many times, like an invitation to my gaming table is an invitation of friendship, right? Is the way I look at it. When you game online blindly like this with strangers, I think sometimes it negates the friendship part. And
Mhm.
when you connect with people personally, just the way you're going to treat each other changes, right? When it's someone who's your friend and not just a stranger on the internet, right? Like even in like a lot of our online games, we whether they're streamed or not, there's like a time before or after the game where we're just chatting and
Yeah.
hanging out. And I think that like hanging out part is actually really important to
Mhm.
trying to develop those relationships.
Well, and I would tell you that the most successful streamed games are ones that also include that as part of their stream, right? So when you've got and obviously Critical Role is the big one everybody pays for and sees, but when you've got some of these others that do that before and after, those are the best ones. I mean, those are the
Yeah.
ones where that people are there and that they respect each other, but they my best friend that I was talking about, my mom told me that I was not allowed to marry anybody until I met somebody who made me laugh as much as he did. When you hear those people, sitting there together, just laughing at, and sometimes laughing at nonsensical things, it's funny to just hear them laugh too.
Yeah.
That's developing the relationship. That's getting to know each other, and those are the best, pieces of entertainment. And it's more entertaining when they're playing the game too, when you've heard them interacting outside of the game as well.
Yes,
So.
rapport is super important, and that's my only fear about online gaming, right? Is like too much of that, and I've seen it in the line of commenting and questioning we've got, and I'm like my first thought is I'll read a certain question or comment and be like, who the hell are you gaming with?
Mhm.
So because like they're just really odd interactions that I don't think normal people would do with each other.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely true.
So it's and
So
that goes back to like the more technology we have, the more connectivity we have to other people around the world. But at the same time, we're less connected to them as well.
yep. Yep, you're absolutely right about that too. And I don't know. I mean, I style myself as a communications expert. I know about how difficult it is, to to do that in a professional setting, in a volunteer setting, in a personal setting as well. But when you add all of this distance between all of us too, and language barriers, and other things like that, uh, it's not something that's easy. And especially for, think about how you learn to communicate, basically, so that you could be a successful professional when you were young, right? The things that you learned in school about proper grammar, and even oratorical contests, or how to look somebody in the eye and shake their hand, those types of things as well. And it's totally different, obviously, when you're interacting with a Japanese culture that does things totally differently. And we can do that like that now because of what the internet does for us. So definitely something that's difficult. So
it is kind of funny to see how things evolving, and because they're evolving so fast, right, so rapidly. Like, I don't know at what point, but like, our kids don't learn to write anymore.
they don't.
It's just not. And like, I see people of my generation, older generations, get their hackles up and bristle at it, but I'm like, it's not relevant anymore. Why would they bother with something that's not relevant? And if you go a couple more generations down the line, it's not only is it going to be it's going to be something for historians.
Yeah. Well, okay. So pet peeve, right, is good grammar. I love good grammar. It is my pet peeve when kids, especially, don't have good grammar, and like, it's all over TV shows and everything else too. My mom was an English major, so I definitely was indoctrinated. But I would tell you that, like, it shouldn't be history, because the using, like, the right way to refer to different things, and even verb tenses and other, like, it's better communication. It lets you get your point across in a more clear sense, and especially with the way that we interact online, like, half of that is gone. Like, they pay no attention to it whatsoever, and so they have to find other ways to compensate. Maybe they have to state their point again and again and again, in order to actually be understood too. But I mean, just my personal opinion. So, so if you don't mind, let me ask you a question. We've been talking a little bit about the D&D Direct stuff that they came out with. So how do you feel about the new content that is coming out? Most of it really excited me, and that's because I'm nostalgic. I don't know that it's going to be any good, but I'm totally nostalgic about it. And so, like, the Leroon and I were discussing it yesterday, and he is not nearly as excited as I am about some of the other pieces that are coming out.
I always hear, like, everyone clamoring for Dragonlance, and I feel like Dragonlance is like the least needed setting on the planet, and here's why: you can access all the old stuff and just play Dragonlance. Like, as far as the rules go, you don't really need anything to run a Dragonlance game. You just have to have the desire to run Dragonlance. But for, like, Spelljammer, I feel like there's a lot more to that. There's a lot more rule sets that might get introduced and things that are relevant. So, like, I'm excited for that. I think that's a great addition to the game. I would feel the same way about Greyhawk, Forgotten Realms, like all the kind of, like, generic fantasy settings. I just don't feel like we need, like, rule sets for those. The ones that are there, they already kind of work. So and then, like, I was looking at the new starter set, and I was, like, a little bit excited when I saw the art, and then when we learned that it's actually has nothing to do with the cartoon, I was a little disappointed. They're just using the art. But I would say Spelljammer, and also they're going into the deep end of Spelljammer too, because it's a three book set compared to everything they've done prior.
Yep, totally agree, and I'm definitely looking forward to that. So, I actually had been working on a campaign that was definitely a Spelljammer type campaign, multi-world, and it was actually based more around the gift. and the Githyanki and the Githzerai. One of my regular players from that original um, Horde of the Dragon Queen. That's the name, by the way. The Horde of the Dragon Queen campaign. Jared Wood. He was the one who came up with the idea for doing all that. And I would tell you that thinking my way through all of that and what a good campaign would be with the Gith and other stuff like that, like it's just made me more excited for what they come out with. And I can't wait to throw a family of mind flayers at my players. So just to scare the crap out of them.
Yeah, so I'm definitely interested to see what they do with that stuff.
Although I don't want a giant gerbil. Like, who cares about Boo? You know?
Yeah. Oh, you're gonna get a lot of hate for that, I think.
I know. Probably from my 19-year-old daughter. She'd probably absolutely love Boo. I don't know that she's seen the Magic the Gathering card about Boo, but I'm not sure that she's seen the other Forgotten Realms stuff about Boo.
Well, I think it's a lot of it's mostly like video games, right? Neverwinter's Night, like the old Neverwinter's Night. I know like Ted used to play that. Like I it's so weird. Like I never got into the video games that my other like nerdy friends did. Like I don't like video game RPGs at all. And like honestly, I prefer things that are more like action oriented or fighting games, and something that I can just like kind of do and be done.
Yeah, well, and I think that there are a lot of people who are like you, and then there are people who are like me. And as we discussed beforehand, basically I played D&D all the way through college. And then in college, probably my, not freshman year, but probably my sophomore year, I really started getting into the games. Now, I had already played Ultima, and I played the early SSI D&D games, and Curse of the Azure Bonds, and all of those others that came out early on too. But when the MMORPGs came out, I was all for it, right? And so with Evercrack, and that's EverQuest for those of you who didn't experience it, but with EverQuest and others.
Was Ultima, was that the first one?
Ultima, so there were Ultima Online was really the first real MMORPG. And that basically put a graphical skin on a lot of other adventures that people were running. And I mean, the way that it started out was like Zorg, right? That we started out with all of the early text-based games that we were running through. But I did all of them, including all of the D&D Online, the Neverwinter Nights, and all of the Neverwinter Nights. I did all of the expansions, and those were the RPGs, but they weren't the MMORPGs, right? But I never enjoyed the D&D versions of the MMORPGs. But I did enjoy the individual games themselves. But
I've never even played the MMO WoW, World of Warcraft. The last time I played World of Warcraft, it was the real-time strategy game. And then when StarCraft came out, I would play that a lot on the BattleNet. But that was basically it. Or chess.
I dipped my toe in World of Warcraft, but Warcraft itself was what I enjoyed. The early Blizzard stuff was definitely, in my opinion, better too. So I definitely felt like they kind of used up a lot of their intellectual capital on some of the early stuff that was the best. Or maybe I'm just nostalgic about it. I mean, hell, I still like stupid stuff that I can go back and play right now too. So
I stand corrected in the chat by Shalender. It was actually Baldur's Gate. Like I never played those games. All my younger brother played them. My friends played them. I just never got into it, I guess. I don't know. Yep. Also, I was a little bit older, so like I was like, I had already bought a house, I was working. So like I only had time for one hobby, and that was gaming and D&D. So like all
Yep.
of my spare time would probably spent be doing like world building and stuff like that, as opposed
Sure.
to like other activities.
Yeah. Before we get out of here, I want to circle back to we had talked about what May is for the Fantasy Grounds Academy, but I
Yes.
wanted to talk about what we do with some of our other months too.
Okay.
And Categood Gaming is teaming up in a similar fashion. So what we've said is Wizards dominates the market as a publisher, obviously, but there's a lot of other good content out there. And so some of these other publishers are much better partners in having focused months that are dedicated to what they're doing. So I think that June is actually going to be Paizo month. And so it works well because PaizoCon's the end of May, beginning of June. And so we'll focus on teaching and showing people the Paizo rule sets during that time frame. And then we'll do others we'll do it with Chaosium, we'll do it with Cobalt Press, we'll do it with Goodman Games, we'll do it with many others. And in a similar, so I actually started that 2 years ago at the Fantasy Grounds Academy with those focus months. The only one that kind of fizzled was actually AD&D. And when we had an AD&D focus month, it was because like everybody already knows AD&D.
Yeah.
And so they're not jumping up to, get involved in us hosting other events. It's not that it's not popular, it's that everybody basically already knows and understands it. But with all of these other and there's no new stuff that comes out. With all these other publishers, they've got new stuff coming out every year, maybe every quarter. And so it's fun to talk about, hey, what's coming next? What are you doing on Kickstarters? And we do a symposium, but then we'll also teach people, we'll teach them the character creation and other things like that, using those products. Traveler's a good one. So I think that's Mongoose is the publisher. Traveler's a great partner in doing that. Savage Worlds, that's another good partner. That's starts with a P.
Pinnacle Entertainment.
Yeah, Peg. So Peg is a good partner for the Academy as well, with what they are always coming out with and their participation in our symposiums and other things like that. But where that applies to Categood Gaming is we will always have certain swag, digital swag too, available on either it could be PDFs, could be available in Fantasy Grounds. We're only going to offer it actually digitally in Fantasy Grounds. We'll have other things that we're offering them in the way of the DMs in the way of adventures and other stuff like that too. But part of that is because my first sponsor is Smiteworks, and so Smiteworks is going to offer as their sponsorship some of the digital swag that we got. But the other, we will still have dedicated months where we focus on each of the different play sets. And so like 25-50% of the games that we offer may be Cobalt Press games during Cobalt Press month, right? And so, I think the one that I'm talking to and working on now actually is Frog God Games, and another great group of people too. It's been very good. I met them at GaryCon, and anyway, so we're talking about November for Frog God Games as well too. But great focus that makes it more exciting or more entertaining, both for the GMs and for the players. So
cool. That's an awesome feature. So we're past the hour mark now.
Yep.
And this is the portion where I'd ask you for your final thoughts, but I feel like you kind of gave them.
You've gotten them all. So, and I've thoroughly enjoyed our time together, Dave.
As well, thank you for coming on. As always, folks, down in the description you can find links to the things that we talked about. So go forth into the interwebs, and until next time, stay nerdy.
Right.